Hey guys, welcome to the videos where I talk about all things domestic discipline and power differential relationships as a taken in hand in a domestic discipline relationship. So on today's video, I want to talk all about the concept of I am held accountable for my behavior regardless of what my husband has done or is doing. And so really what this means is I think that there is a temptation, especially from taken in hands, to want things to be fair. We want to make sure that when our head of household, maybe creates miscommunication or makes a mistake, that there's a temptation to point it out and to want to call them into account. And the fact of the matter is that's just not our place. I don't think head of households are void of accountability, and they are not void of responsibility. Obviously, their position in the relationship requires a lot of responsibility and they should be held accountable, but not by us. It is not our job to assess the behavior of our head of household, but it is their job to assess our behavior. It is their job to assess whether or not we are meeting expectations, whether or not we are in having a good demeanor, a good attitude, right? And so it's not fair. It is one-sided as far as that is concerned. And so we need to kind of get out of this temptation to want to hold our head of households accountable, because we do not hold authority over our head of household. And so we need to understand our position in the relationship as being under authority, not having authority. And that should be pretty obvious, but sometimes in practice, the temptation gets to be a little too much and we tend to step outside of our roles, especially when things happen and our head of households might be the driving cause of the breakdown of communication or the breakdown of the systems. And it's really hard not to want to hold them accountable to that. Now, am I saying that you don't point those things out, that you don't try to talk through those things so that those things can stop happening, so that your head of household can become more aware? No, absolutely not. Like, I'm not saying don't say anything ever, but do so in a way that is actually helpful and supportive and not trying to assert authority, because we don't have authority, and so we really shouldn't be trying to gain that upper hand in any sort of way. So why am I still held accountable for my behavior when maybe I'm not the only one responsible? And that is because I know the expectations of my behavior. I know that if I need accommodation, if I need to ask Coda to make an exception for something, it is my responsibility to go and ask. He wants my communication. I'm expected to communicate, and I know the expectations. I know that I'm expected to communicate what I need. I know that I'm expected to communicate why I'm having a hard time. I know that I'm expected to communicate with respect. I'm expected to maintain a good demeanor and a good attitude. So I know the expectations, and because I know the expectations, I should be held to them. And ultimately, my behavior is my choice. I get to choose whether or not I go to him very softly, kindly, and respectfully to communicate, or if I start to get an attitude, if I start to become snippy, if I start to spiral in my own kind of thought processes. That is my choice. My behavior is my choice. And because it is a choice, it is something that I can and should be held accountable for. So knowing the expectations, knowing that my behavior is a choice, it makes sense that even when Coda maybe doesn't fulfill his role absolutely perfectly, that I still have a responsibility to maintain a certain level of respect, a certain level of obedience, a certain level of decorum within my relationship, because that's the expectation. And those are expectations that exceed all of our rules. Those are expectations that exceed circumstances, right? I'm expected to be respectful regardless of what is happening. So it makes sense that even when Coda contributes to the miscommunication, even when he contributes to maybe the reason why the situation was difficult for me, I still don't get to be argumentative. I still don't get to be disrespectful. I still don't get to be short with him. I still don't get to have an attitude, because those things are unacceptable. They drive division in our relationship. They break down our relationship, and I should be held accountable for them, because they are known expectations, and because I still have a choice at the end of the day whether or not I communicate in an effective, respectful way, or if I allow my emotions and the circumstances to take over and communicate in a disrespectful and degrading way in my relationship. And because I get to choose how I respond, how I react, how I communicate, that means that I get to be held accountable for how I choose to respond, react, and communicate. So that is kind of a short explanation of why I am still held accountable regardless of what happens, regardless of my head of household's behavior, regardless of what is going on in the circumstance. And I hope that that kind of gives some insight into that concept. If you want to hear more about this, if you want to hear my expanded thoughts on this topic, I will be doing a Patreon exclusive bonus episode all about this topic. So if you want to get that, check out the link for the Patreon down below. And as always, subscribe if you're not already, like this video, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and we will talk to you next time.